With me is Dawie Roodt, Chief Economist of the Efficient Group. Welcome to the Truckx show, Dawie. Tell us, what prospects do you see for South Africa's economy in the months ahead? Will we avert junk status?
Well, I'm afraid things are not going well out there in the South African economy, and we can see that. We know that unemployment levels are very, very high. We know that we've got a poverty issue. The South African economy could be in a recession, in fact. And we know that things like, for example, food prices are going up quite sharply. We've got an election coming. We have this social tension building up in the country. You can feel it.
Yes.
So clearly there's a lot of tension out there. The economy is certainly not doing very well. And there is a real possibility that the South African, or that our bonds can be downgraded to so-called junk. Now, if that should happen, we should see a currency weakening even further, even weaker economic growth and growth prospects, even higher levels of unemployment. And that's something that we need to do whatever we can to try not to get downgraded. So, but I'm afraid over the next couple of months, maybe in fact for the next couple of quarters, the outlook for the South African economy is not very rosy at the moment.
What does that mean for South Africa's transport industry, the state of the economy as it now is?
Well, any industry is affected by all the other industries, because an economy is interlinked on all sort of levels. Right. And the reality is that if the economy slows down, then all industries will be affected by that as well. And I guess exactly the same with the transport industry. And the transport industry, additionally, is linked to physical goods. Physical goods like, for example, the transport of in and out of South Africa of things that have been manufactured or imported or exported, whatever the case may be.
Right.
While the strongest economic growth in South Africa, or the little bit of growth that we do see at the moment, is not in those physical kind of industries. We see growth in industries where you don't need transport. You see growth, for example, in finance. That's where growth is taking place, or in the service industry generally. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to transport a service via email, as an example. Yes. You don't need a lorry for that. Yes. But having said that, the South African economy, and Africa particularly, are economies that are pretty much still in a primary phase, and gradually moving into the secondary phase, and those industries need transport. So if we can get South Africa's economy to start growing a little bit better, and if we can get South Africa to integrate with the rest of Africa, then I think one of the industries that will certainly benefit will be the transport industry. Yeah.
Where do you think the opportunities will present themselves within that transport industry from the economic perspective?
Well, at the moment, we do see that the commodity cycle, as an example, is in a lower turning point. Hopefully, we are seeing a turning point of some sorts. My suspicion is that we're going to see some economies, like, for example, the Indian economy starts picking up some speed. And if that should happen, then I would say that commodity prices will probably start going up, and that will be supportive of the transport industry involved in commodities, as an example. Another very good example there, I think, is that we have an absolutely wonderful future in South Africa, but also in Africa, has to do with agriculture. Agriculture is one of those industries that's growing very, very fast. People are moving to the cities. People are urbanizing. They don't grow their own pumpkins anymore in their backyards. They will buy a pumpkin from a farmer somewhere, and that pumpkin needs to be transported. So if there are two specific industries that I would highlight for transport over the next couple of years and decades, or maybe even longer, certainly will be commodities, but more importantly, probably agriculture as well.
Just talking about sort of urbanization and the move towards the cities, that's bringing about a lot of technological change with it. Virtual currencies, self-driving cars and trucks, ease of congestion, that kind of thing. Where do you see us going with all this?
Well, in a way, the world is going through an industrial revolution of sorts. But unlike previous industrial revolutions, this one is a different kind of industrial revolution. It's a different kind of industrial revolution because it is a technological industrial revolution. And you need different kinds of skills in this industrial revolution.
Are we still trying to understand it at the moment?
The point is we don't really know where we're going to end. But I think a couple of very interesting trends are coming to the fore that one can identify already. One is that machine machines are doing stuff. Stuff that we used to do in the past, machines will be taking that over. So if there's any kind of job that is repetitive of nature, a machine or a computer will be doing that in future.
From the transport perspective, self-driving trucks.
As an example, that's an excellent example where you will probably find self-driving trucks which will be far safer than what we have today. So that's something that's going to happen. But not only that, in terms of the way that we're doing business, we're probably going to see significant changes. We will probably move in a phase eventually where finance will look completely different from what it looks like today. We will probably move into a phase where transport, as an example, will become dramatically more cost effective and efficient than what it is today because of just-on-time delivering and that sort of stuff. The reality is that computers are just better than humans. If you can get to that specific point where you can actually get a computer to do something, they do it so much better than us. But don't see that as a threat, because we've gone through these sort of phases before, and every time it has been disruptive. I mean, when we first discovered fire, as an example, that was very disruptive, but eventually we gained so much more from that. When we first started producing, mass producing Model T Fords, as an example, we destroyed the horse industry with that. So there are these sort of things that will happen, but eventually it will be to the benefit of all of us.
Dawie, thank you very, very much. That was most insightful, and we'll see you at the Truckx show.